So I wanted to make a short video about the books that I really want to read this year. The first book is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. So A Room of One's Own is an essay that's based off of 2 papers that she presented, I believe. And essentially it discusses women and fiction and writing, which are all topics that greatly intrigue me. So the next book that I want to read is by Clarice Lispector, and I've been going through her chronicles, but the passage that I read yesterday actually mentioned Virginia Woolf. I highly recommend this book, honestly. And so with that being mentioned, the next book that I want to read is Hour of the Star. I don't know much about this book other than that it's about a woman, and there's nothing particularly special about her. Not her looks or her intellect, but she believes herself to be special. This will be the first story that I read by her, which is weird that I started with the chronicles before the book. But honestly, the reason I picked this up is because of one little page. I was blown away by it. I saw it online, and so I immediately just ordered the whole book before I even knew who the author really was and what chronicles actually were. Now, the next book is a big one, and it's East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I've been seeing so much about this book. I think we're following a family, and that's about it. That's all I know, and I'm fine with going into it like that. Now, next books that I want to read, both of them are by Bell Hooks. I've never read anything by her before, but again, she's a figure that I've been seeing a lot online, and I think I like what I'm seeing. And so the first one is all about love. Youth culture today is cynical about love, and that cynicism has come from their pervasive feeling that love cannot be found. Just like the title mentions, this is a book about love. It's not really a topic that I would say I'm that interested in. I've definitely never read anything like this before. I would like to expose myself to new ideas and new questions that I typically wouldn't gravitate towards, just to see what actually resonates with me and sort of dissect why it resonates with me. The other Bell Hooks book I just got is Bone Black, and this is a memoir, I believe. It's based off of her childhood. And based off of what I've read, it's about how she came into herself or became Bell Hooks. It's an exploration of how she developed her identity, and that is something that I'm curious about. I'm curious about the concept of identity. And also just the question of whether or not it's worth knowing yourself and the limitations that you could place on yourself by having preconceived beliefs about what your identity is. Next is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I don't think I met one person that did not like this book or was not blown away by it, and so I'm pretty excited. I believe the first thing that I read of hers was also in middle school or high school, and it was The Lottery, a short story, which is really incredible. If you haven't read it, you should. It won't take you long. And We Have Always Lived in the Castle, I believe, is about 2 sisters living in a family home, and that's all I know, and that's all I want to know. Something else that I really want to get more into is poetry. The only poet whose works I'm really familiar with is Robert Frost, and there's definitely a reason for that. His poems are just so lyrical, and they just always resonated with me. I really like them. I like the topics and the subjects that he discusses through his poetry and the imagery that he uses to discuss those topics. And so I've never really branched out beyond that. But now I really do want to expand my knowledge regarding poetry, because I just feel like there's so much more out there that I'm missing out on. And so I'm going to start with Emily Dickinson. Next is The God of Small Things. This is a book that I hear of often, and it's one of my dad's favorite books, and that's basically why I want to read it. Also, the title is amazing. The God of Small Things. That's a pretty cool title. Next is Sula. So this is going to be my 3rd work of Toni Morrison's. I read God Help the Child and Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon was one of my favorite books from last year and one of my all-time favorite books. And so I'm very excited for this one, and I'm already anticipating that it will be filled with scribbles, just like my Song of Solomon copy. So this story revolves around a friendship that ends up going bad. I'm not sure what transpired between them, but something happens and they end up hating each other. I do eventually want to pick up Beloved and The Bluest Eye because I think those two are her most popular, and there has to be a reason for that. But I decided to pick this book as my next Morrison book because I wanted to read about friendship. Next is a book called We. I believe it's originally a Russian novel, and it's a dystopia. It was written in 1920, I believe, so a while ago. Essentially, it takes place in a totalitarian society of one state, ruled over by the all-powerful benefactor. It was the inspiration for George Orwell's 1984. We is the archetype of the modern dystopia, or anti-utopia, a great prose poem detailing the fate that might befall us all if we surrender our individual selves to some collective dream of technology and fail in the vigilance that is the price of freedom. And next is Nana. I would like to get through as many volumes as I can of this manga because I like it. Essentially, the story centers around two girls, both of them named Nana, but they're very different. They have very different personalities, they dress very differently, and it's an exploration of their relationship with one another as well as the relationships that they have with the people around them. And it's just such an interesting story about love and circumstance and just life in general. It's devastating at times, very wholesome in other times, and so I recommend it. So those are all the books that I want to read. Let me know what books you are really anticipating for this year and why you really want to read them, and I will see you soon.